In 1605, world literature encounters its first true addict. The name of that addict is known to all: Don Quixote. But why call him an addict? Does he take drugs? Does he drink too much alcohol? Is he addicted to a substance of any kind? No. Don Quixote has another kind of addiction, one we all share: an addiction to diction. Addiction means to be hooked on words. If prediction is something that comes before diction, then addiction is the act of adding diction to yourself. That's what Don Quixote did. He read book after book on knighthood until in his mind he became a knight himself, mistaking windmills for giants. He was addicted to the diction he consumed in books, the only medium of his age. With every hour of reading, he added more and more words, never realizing this addiction was transforming his behavior. To others, he looked insane. In his own mind, he was a knight. We add diction by consuming, just like food. But why do we use the same word consumption for both food and information? Because consumption describes what actually happens. When you ingest food, it becomes part of you, your blood, your body. And when you ingest information, the information becomes part of you too. Consumption then is just another way of saying addition or addiction. The Latin consumere means to add up, to sum up. So when we consume, whether it's food or words, we're becoming it. But then comes the question, who adds what to whom? Are we adding diction to ourselves, or is diction adding us to itself? Is it about information as substance, or is it rather about us as its subjects? The fact that we call ourselves subjects means that we are subjected to something, to ideas, which for Plato, the inventor of the concept, meant a visible form, eidos. An idea is a form before anything else. Today we live in the so-called information age where we claim to have a lot of information. But we don't actually have information, as if it were a thing. It is information itself which has us as its form. That's why it's called information, because it needs a form to take place in, which is us, the addicts to diction, the suckers for information. When we say we understand a piece of information, that's what we almost literally do. We stand under it. We become its subjects, subjected to ideas, as if they enveloped us, falling on our shoulders, something which we get even possessed by. We don't have or possess information as if it were a physical property. When an idea takes form in our minds, we are the ones becoming possessed, consumed by information which reflects in our actions or our behavior. Don Quixote was that kind of a well-informed man. He was completely formed by the ideas he read in books. He eventually became the information that took over him. He became the subject in all senses of the word, including a literary subject within the very book that is written about him. In the second part of the novel, Don Quixote encounters the writer who makes him famous, which makes Don Quixote a double subject, not just for the real reader, but also for the fictional reader within the book itself. We're almost unsure whether we're just reading the book or actually living it. Cervantes uses this device to show the true nature of information and its consumption, that the reader too becomes a subject. And not only the reader, but the author himself. Here's what happened in reality. Before Cervantes could finish his sequel, an anonymous writer, an impostor publishing under the name Alonso Fernández de Avellaneda, released the fake second part of Don Quixote. Cervantes was furious. In response, he writes his own true second part, but with a twist. Inside the book, Don Quixote meets people who have already read about his adventures, and he even comes face to face with the author who has written about him. So the main subject of the book is no longer just Don Quixote. It also becomes Cervantes himself, and the reader is not sure where fiction ends and reality begins. What Cervantes does in the second part is insert himself into the book, making himself the subject of his own story. A dialogue opens up, a kind of duality. On one side, the madman who becomes knight by reading too many books. On the other, the writer who steps into the very book he's writing. In a way, Cervantes and Don Quixote switch roles. The character becomes information, and so does the author. And that's the point. Cervantes shows us what information truly is. The moment when the creator and the creation merge into a single form. A few decades later, Cervantes' compatriot Diego Velázquez would mirror this idea in his famous painting Las Meninas, where the painter himself appears inside the painting, painting the painting. This is different from just a self-portrait. This is the creator catching himself in the process of creation, a visual counterpart to the strange device Cervantes used in literature, when the one who informs becomes information himself. Information is really about transformation, and you could also say performance. When we say we have information, what we should really say is we are informed. The focus is not on having information, but on being it. To be informed is to be in a form, to embody the idea through one's actions and behavior. Information transforms us in the very act of consumption. It shapes us into a different form. It changes our behavior. Even the English word to behave tells us this. Behavior is both being and having at once, fused into a single form, an idea. To behave is to be having an idea, a mental form that guides action. As Erich Fromm argues in his book To Be or To Have, in the end it's always about being, not having. So having an idea or possessing an idea creates an inverse, almost mirrored relation. The possessor of the idea becomes possessed by it. The one who thinks he holds the information ends up being held by it. It is not an act of holding, but a kind of frenzy. The possessor becomes the possession, the possessed. Just as Cervantes or Velázquez became the very information they portrayed. Take an idea you have of yourself. Just a single word, the primary piece of information that forms you, your name. We say we have names, as if we carry them in our pockets or store them in our brains like engravings. But where is a name really? Is it in the brain, in the passport, in the government registry? Is all that external data enough to say that we have a name? Not really. Having a name means behaving according to that name. Having a name is being that name, when the information and the subject of that information are one and the same. We don't have names, we are names. We embody them. All of our daily behavior circles around how to make something of our name. We don't want our name insulted. We want it remembered, noticed, spoken aloud with admiration, written about it, talked about it. Our behavior is not directed towards having a name as if it were an external possession. It is about being that name, embodying it fully. We are quite literally addicted to our names, consumed by them. We add them to ourselves and live with that addiction or addition. And today, we don't just add our names to books or paintings, the platforms Velázquez or Cervantes used. We add our names online into the digital platforms that now shape us. The so-called digital world, the online world we live in today, is that place of addition and addiction. And like the two great Spaniards, we merge ourselves with the platform we consume and become part of its form. If our name online is insulted or praised, we are insulted or praised. There's no longer any separation between us in the physical world and us in the digital one. It all becomes one form, one idea, one platform. Think of Neo in The Matrix. He becomes the subject of a digital reality that consumes him, that possesses him. And it takes him a long time to realize the form he's actually living in, the platform shaping his reality without him noticing it. Most of our actions and decisions, our jobs, our relationships, the things we focus on every day, shift according to the form or the platform we use to share our ideas. If the book was the platform that shaped Don Quixote, then the screen, the phone, the online world is the platform of our time. We are all Don Quixote now. We are all possessed by the form that guides our behavior in unnoticed ways. We can call it ideology when a single idea, a single form, as Plato called it, takes over reality. Fyodor Dostoevsky explored this in depth in his novel The Possessed. He shows how quickly people can be overtaken by an idea, how words spread like a contagion until an entire society begins to move under their spell. And so we come back to our friend Don Quixote, the possessed man, the informed man, the madman. It's no coincidence Dostoevsky considered Don Quixote the greatest novel of all time when he wrote, "In the whole world there is no deeper, no mightier literary work. This is so far the last and greatest expression of human thought. And if the world were to come to an end and people were asked there somewhere, 'Did you understand your life on earth and what conclusions have you drawn from it?' man could silently hand over Don Quixote." Don Quixote's possession by the information he consumed was stronger than reality itself. But is he really a crazy person? Or is he an exaggeration of all of us, the addicts to words, the suckers for information? Well, Cervantes gives us a hint. And then a strange thought took hold of him, one that had never yet arisen in the mind of any madman in the world. Exactly. It didn't occur in the mind of a madman. It occurred in the mind of a sane man, just like us, just like Cervantes inserting himself into his own book, and just like Velázquez painting himself into his own painting. Becoming one form, becoming information. It's ironic that the very platform you're using right now to watch me is called YouTube. It's where I become the tube. I'm in the tube. I become information. And I behave as if I'm already there, in the form. I get possessed by it. I'm painting my own painting right now, becoming one form, becoming information. That's what Marshall McLuhan called the medium is the message. And that will be our next episode. So stay tuned and stay tubed.